Growing up in Africa, it's very very different from growing up in England or in America or in Australia, in the UK. Like as I said, it's very very different when it comes to how we treat sexual energy and how we treat sex and how we treat intercourse. It's two different things, which meaning that it must be very very hard to do semen retention and NoFap if you didn't grow up in Africa. If you grew up in America or UK or Australia or somewhere there, except they in the EU. Because what I know about Arabs, they also take this thing very very sexual energy very very serious. Because what I've realized about growing up in those countries that I mentioned, in America and stuff like that, sex is not from young age. Sex, girls can date from 16 years old. They can invite their boyfriend to sleepovers. They can have boyfriend. Like, it's different in Africa, man. Because first of all, in Africa, our parents don't talk to us about sex. In my time I'm 30 years old, in the time that I grew up in, we didn't have internet connections. Growing up, that's what I'm saying. For us, it must not be. We didn't have internet connections. We didn't date public in front of our parents. So, meaning that for us, we grew up in a semen retention world, most of us, where sex is being kept as a sacred thing, not secret, sacred thing that must be secret, that must be respected, and just not a common topic for daily basis. Because in Africa, in most African churches, I'm not talking about these new African religion churches. I'm talking about African spiritual churches where African spirituality is practiced. Sex, it's very very very, it's very 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 respected, and it's a sacred thing that must be played far away from. Because in most churches, like in the church that I grew up in, you cannot go to church after you had sex. You have to finish 7 days before you can go to church after you had sex. So sex, meaning that sex also affect your vibration. And we also have these things called voodoo doctors. We call them sangomas in Africa. You also cannot, if you are sick, they prescribe celibacy and abstaining in order for the herbs that if you went to a spiritual doctor, they can be like, okay, you are sick from this, take these herbs, you're gonna drink them, but in order for these herbs to work, you have to abstain from having sex. So as we grew up knowing that sex is a sacred thing, the problem started when we started to have access to the internet. That's when the problem started. Now we started to access pornography. We started to access dating. We started to access all this bad content in social media. So that, as I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. For African, back then, semen retention was very very easy. Unlike now it's very very hard, man. Also for us, it's very hard because now we are exposed to all of this thing. We have Twitter, which is posting all this nude picture every day. We are also exposed to this new fashion of dressing. Back then in Africa, women used to dress properly, like they used to cover up their body. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying so right now it's very very hard to fight lust because there's thirst traps everywhere. Everyone is posting their thirsty pictures, trying to trap you into the thirst. So African semen retention was simple back then. It was very simple. It was sexual energy importance of conserving. It was taught in churches. It was taught in spiritual clinics. So you knew subconsciously that sex is something that must be respected. Sex is not something that can be just played with. Unlike now, with the modern youth right now, it's different because first of all, the kids right now, the youth is not spiritual anymore. They don't go to churches. The modern generation, I'm 30 years old. I'm talking about from 10 years ago when I was 20. Right now, the 20 years old, they don't go to church, they don't practice spirituality, which means they are more vulnerable to falling into this trap of overexposure of sexual behavior and this lust. So they're gonna be trapped by lust. Very, very, very simple. So what I can say that I don't think one will be addicted to masturbation and pornography if they follow those deep African spirituality, because I fell into that trap when I started to move into the big cities, because I was staying in the villages. But when I moved to the big cities, when I started to be exposed to these things, that's when I started to also fall victim into lust and masturbation and over watching porn all the time. So as I'm saying, man, African spirituality, they've knew this thing existed and they've put principles to prevent people from falling into it. So if you are African, man, just follow your African roots. If you can go deep inside your roots as an African, you'll see that no, man, actually semen retention is be there. As I'm saying, the church that I go to, you cannot go if you had sex for 7 days. You have sex today, you must finish 7 days before you can go to church. Spiritual, before you can, even those one who want to practice being spiritual doctors, they are told they have to be celibate. You have to be celibate in order to practice those African spirituality. So in Africa, man, sexual energy is being respected. It has always been respected. We all have knew that sex is above us, unlike now and in other countries. So if you are in the USA, maybe you are 15 years old, then you're already dating, you're exposed to sex, you're exposed to all these things. So it's for people outside Africa, it's gonna be a bit harder for them to be in semen retention.